Welcome to Live Talks with Dentsply Sirona, directly from the EAO 2019 in beautiful Lisbon, Portugal. We will send 5 live talks during the EAO. There you will have the chance to listen to interviews and learn about the latest innovations and implant news in the world of implant dentistry. My name is Mia Jensen and I will guide you through live talks. Today, my guest is Dr. Lyndon Cooper from University of Illinois at Chicago, where he is the Associate Dean for Research and Head of the Department of Oral Biology. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Cooper.
Mia, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming here. Much enjoyable.
It is.
So, Dr. Cooper, you've been working with the Astrotech implant system over many years. So how has your experience been?
My experience with implant dentistry has been very interesting. I was one of the first wave of young dentists to be introduced to implants in the early 1980s. And by the mid-1990s, many problems had become apparent, many limitations to therapy. We were introduced to the Astrotech implant system as a way of solving some of those problems. The problems that were foremost in our minds were this precipitous early bone loss that we saw at all of our implants, and the continuous screw loosening and fracture problems that were consistent with the early design implants. The Astrotech implant provided an early and almost immediate solution to those problems. Since then, we've followed the evolution of implant dentistry in the Astrotech system to make it 1, more user-friendly, 2, more versatile, and 3, perhaps even more long-lasting or providing greater longevity for our patients.
That sounds great. So according to you, what are the main benefits with the Astrotech implant system EV?
Well, I think the Astrotech EV system builds on all of the features of the original Astrotech system. The idea that we don't have to accept incipient or early bone loss at a dental implant. The fact that a 3rd generation well-engineered surface can promote 50, 60, 70% more bone formation in challenging situations. But more importantly, the EV provides us with this confidence that the strength of the pillar and the strength of the abutment provide. When we look at the system, the implant walls in the conical portion of the implant are thicker. When we look at the abutment, the screws are larger. And even thinking about the uni abutment, which is the diverse or broad-based screw-retained system, it's a system with a 1.8 millimeter screw, much larger than the screws we see in our multi-unit abutment systems. So EV is predictable and it's strong.
Well, thank you for sharing those insights. Now let's turn to my colleague Anna-Karin Lundgren, who will share some facts on the documented results on the Astrotech implant system.
Science is the key if you want to know that you're working with products resulting in a good and reliable clinical outcome. Scientific documentation is one of the cornerstones of Dentsply Sirona implants, and we put pride in documenting every step of our product development. The Astrotech implant system has been on the market for many years, and the key features of this implant system, the OsseoSpeed surface, the microthread, the connective contour, and the conical seal design are all very well documented, both in a short and a long-term perspective with excellent clinical results. In fact, the Astrotech implant system is one of the most well-documented implant systems on the market today, having more than 1,000 publications supporting the clinical outcome and the use of these products. I especially want to highlight 2 recent publications. The first one being a 5-year multi-center clinical follow-up by Professor Hemmele and his co-workers. They are comparing the use of short 6 millimeter implants to that of longer implants combined with grafting. And in addition to the excellent clinical results, they are also reporting of a simplified surgical procedure, reduced surgical time as well as costs when using the short implants. And not to mention the higher patient satisfaction. Now, from a patient perspective, it's crucial to receive a reliable treatment functioning also in the long term, many years later. The second study I want to highlight is a study by Windel and co-workers, reporting on the use of OsseoSpeed implants being immediately loaded in a lower jaw. And they report of minimal bone loss, 100% implant survival rate, as well as prosthetic survival rates after 10 years of follow-up, all in the benefit of the patient.
Thank you very much, Anna-Karin. Very impressive. Not many implant companies can show similar data. But there's always room for improvement in everything. So Lyndon, from your perspective, is there anything that could be improved when working with the Astrotech Implant System EV?
Every implant system has its quirks. Every implant system has its limitations. And what we've found with the Astrotech system for many years, it truly is a thinking man's implant system. It is complex, and it's intended to be so because it tries to find remarkable solutions for the broadest range of applications. One of the things that we've learned with the EV system is that one has to be particularly aware of what they are doing surgically, and that the drilling protocol is designed to be specific for the particular situation that the patient presents in. It would be nice if it would be simplified, but in reality the system is complicated because it requires we think about each and every person's own bone situation. Related to this, we found that the original flatter bottom design of the EV implant made it challenging to place that implant in an undersized osteotomy. The reality of an undersized osteotomy is what has occurred because of our desires for immediate loading. It's fortunate that the next evolution of the EV system is the Astrotech EV implant, which has a tapered apex, which with an increased depth of the thread that enables us to place this implant in that particular situation.
At the Dentsply Sirona Inspiration Talk Satellite Symposium, you presented on the latest development, the Astrotech Implant EV. Now let's listen to my colleague Johan Falk present some data on this evolution. Johan, you are one of the authors of the poster Different Apical Implant Designs and the Impact on Initial Stability, presented here at EAO. Can you tell me more?
Yes, the poster is based on several laboratory studies investigating the differences in bone engagement and performance of two different apical designs.
And what was the outcome?
One of the implants has a deeper apical thread. We could show that the implant can withstand a higher torque before stripping the threads in the bone.
Interesting. Was there anything else that the tests revealed?
Yes, the apical thread also made the implant engage more easily into the bone. As the implant enters the bone more easily, less pressure is needed by the dentist to install the implant into the bone.
Thanks, Johan. Another well-documented development. Lyndon, this means that only the apical part of the implant has been changed and nothing else? And you have been part of the development, or you're also an early user. What is your experience so far?
It's very important that I remain cautious in my speculation, but our early experiences are that the intended changes in handling have improved our clinical ability to place these implants in bone of different types. As I previously said, we want to, in some cases, place implants in undersized osteotomies, and the new apical design enables that. Secondly, there seems to be, and I believe an erroneous belief, that high insertion torque breeds success. And this implant system, the design of the apex, likely will not increase insertion torque, but it certainly promotes primary stability, as we've been able to demonstrate by measuring the ISQ values of these new implants we've been placing. We see consistently high ISQ values placed with these Astrotech EV implants. Notably, one other point is that there is literature that suggests that high insertion torques can alter the implant abutment interface on the internal portion of the implant. I'm pleased that we can now place these implants at less than 45 Newton centimeter torque, even in type 1 bone.
That sounds very good. And what about the clinical handling? Do you need to change a lot?
So as I mentioned, the clinical handling of the Astrotech EV system requires that we adapt each implant placement to each particular situation. In this system, we have a variety of terminal drills we can use. We call these VRX. In this system, what we found is the robust or efficient cutting of the new apex enables this implant to be placed quite simply into the bone following the use of the V or the X drill. This is in contrast to situations where perhaps the osteotomy needed to be instrumented further so the implant could be placed deeply. This implant is going to provide us with a little more confidence every time we place the implant in that first part of the osteotomy, knowing that we can engage those micro threads and keep drilling till the implant's at the appropriate depth.
With regards to platform, instrumentation and things like that, are there any changes there?
Not really. If you're used to using the Astrotech EV system, you're not going to notice any difference in terms of the equipment required to place the EV implant. You're not going to notice anything different necessarily about the particular sequence of events, although you may find there are situations in type 3 or 4 bone where you might not consider using either the V or the X drill because of the efficiency of cutting.
Okay, well, that sounds great. So thank you very much, Dr. Cooper, for sharing your experience on the Astrotech implant system evolution and the latest Astrotech implant EV. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Mia.
Thank you. Now let's take a look at how the attendees at the EAO can experience the Astrotech implant EV. So this was some news about the latest development of the Astrotech implant system. The new Astrotech implant EV will be available in October in North America and in the early beginning of next year in Europe. If you would like to review the live talks or share this with your colleagues and friends, please go into the Dentsply Sirona Facebook or YouTube pages where you can locate the live talks. There you will also find the Dentsply Sirona Satellite Symposium Inspiration Talks, where we address several different hot topics such as the latest in implant innovations, single tooth treatment, fixed retention and digital implant workflow. And you can also listen to my guest Lyndon Cooper presenting there. Thank you for being with us and welcome back.